even more direct than that.
Tell me about how did you experience life before you started your spiritual journey?
That's a good question. How did I experience life before I started my spiritual journey the second time? I experienced life as lost. There was very little reflecting back on principles and values. I felt lost. I was like, where is this going? What am I trying to build, really, and for whom?
Like, with the detail that I was an entrepreneur and I felt lost.
Yeah, I was an entrepreneur. I was an entrepreneur in the environmental space, and I kept telling myself this story that I'm helping the environment and that I should feel good about it, but it wasn't really clicking. It wasn't really full. Like, I can execute, I can go to work, I can build projects and design things and do my everyday activities, but it wasn't really fully me. It wasn't really me in my full capacity.
Tell me about what was missing and bring me back to the feeling of lostness. That you're feeling lost. What was that about?
So, okay, you want to ask me about why I started this spiritual journey.
First, I want to know what you were like before you started your spiritual journey. How did Nigel live? Was he just consuming stuff? He was just this. He felt lost. He felt confused. This is your state.
No, life was fine. Relatively. I had a decent place to stay. The company was making a little bit of money. I was living in a country that I loved. And I had a little cocoon around me of safety that I built for myself. But there was no stretch. There was no vibrancy when you have the courage to go look over the edge of a big cliff.
So there was boredom?
No, it wasn't boredom, but it wasn't dissatisfaction. It was just blip. Good thing happened.
What's wrong with that? Why did you go? Why did you change that?
Because I used to be so fiery and curious and explorative, and I just found myself in this kind of cycle.
Cycle of what?
Just cycle of doing for the sake of doing. Which is not that bad. It's just not what I wanted.
What did you want?
Something else.
You wanted the fire and the curiosity back? You want to experience that part of you again?
Yeah, I couldn't explain it at the time. But I felt like I had to do something grand with my life. That's how I would explain it at that time. I could see where my life was going and what it would amount to, which is survival and decent food and a nice place to live in a very safe country. But it wasn't really going anywhere. I think this whole American upbringing has instilled me with all these war movies as a kid, where the person took back what the oppressors took from him, which was the ability to have glory, and in battle and in starting companies and doing bold things. It wasn't about the money or the power or anything. It was about experiencing the glory of things. So this longing for this kind of expansive glory was my desire, my deep desire. At that time, I would have explained it like that. What are you doing?
No problem. It's still going. That's good. Okay, so tell me, so then you started the journey, and what was like the going in the cave moment for you in the journey where you had to face your darkest? Like tell me about like the most transformative moment in your journey, the hardest part of your journey.
The hardest part of my journey?
But what made the biggest impact for you in your journey?
Well, I had a beautiful group of men facilitate an exercise that had me look back on my entire life. And it was a trust exercise. I had to fall in this kind of group of men from like a 10 or 12 foot ladder or something like this. And on each and every step I climbed up, I had to let go of an old story that was keeping me back. And I was blindfolded actually as well. But I was like so full into it. And as I stepped on each rung, I said, I have good parents. I know they tried their best. So releasing that story. I am a capable person, capable of learning skills and experience life. And so on every step, I let those go until I got to the top. And I fell into this group of people like who held me up and who caught me and held me up. And through that experience, the glory that like everything is here. Everything is here and in my interactions. And I had this self-confidence. I had the self-confidence that I had the things required to take on life and to find my glory and to live a beautiful life. And it was all inside. And all I needed to do was uncover that from all the other internal stories. You're not good enough, all these judgments that come like piling on each other. You're not good enough in comparison with other people in society, or you're not rich enough, or you're not the best lover or friend or whatever. All these stories, there was like some few stories. I mean, everything is all things are stories. But there were these few stories that I really chose to keep. And all the rest were like, it doesn't really matter me knowing them, because I know where they come from. They come from fear.
So what were the few stories you chose to keep?
That I'm love, that I am lovable, that I have the capacity of giving love, that I have the capacity to give, even when I look or feel like I can't give out of the fear of survival. I have huge capacities to give. And so before I fell off the ladder, back to the exercise, before I fell off the ladder into the group to hold me, I yelled, like, what is this core thing of this life? And it was charity. Charity as in like giving. And that became part of my giving, and serving became part of my joy again in life.
How is that? What is your experience of life today? Like, how has that shifted the way that you experience life today?
Yeah, the spiritual journey is just like, it goes on forever. Like, if you want to get somewhere with your spiritual journey, you're probably not going to get there until a very, very long time. But the journey itself teaches so many different things, like about yourself and how you see the world, and how that can be made flexible. And how a lot of the times our stories, things we think are true, but are really just stories. Like, this person is angry at me, or that thing will never work because I just can't do it. Like, these are all stories that are kind of limiting how we could be. And you realize so many things on this spiritual journey, but by going inside, by reflecting upon how you are feeling deeply, by what you need to work on, by your deepest fears, or reflecting on your deepest fears and figuring out where they are and saying, oh, I made that choice because my fear of survival came up. And saying, fears, those are good things. Some fears keep me alive, but some fears keep me from living like my fullest life. And so being able to see those things that go on inside just opens up a whole nother world. Because what I believe and what I've seen and felt and experienced through my spiritual journey is, when I work on myself, I see so much of myself in others, and I'm able to have compassion for that. Because in some way, when I look in someone's eyes, they are me, and I am a part of them. And that is the most beautiful, peaceful thing. To be in relationship and to realize that and recognize that. Yeah. So now I'm living in curiosity. Now I'm open, and whenever I feel a deep emotion or reaction, I'm able to feel it fully. I'm not afraid of crying. I'm not afraid of laughing incredibly. I'm afraid of less things. And I have an inner peace that no one or no situation can take away from me, other than myself. So there's a level of autonomy.
What's the thing in your life today that still takes away that peace? What's your edge now that you're walking through in the never-ending spiritual journey?
In the never-ending spiritual journey, I think those fears are real, and they will always be there. They're remnants of survival. They're remnants of what I did as a child to make me feel safe. And those patterns of interacting and reacting out of fear, like, still go on. They're very strong.
What is that?
They're very strong. Those are fears of rejection, fears of not being good enough, fears when my spouse says, I don't like the way it is anymore, fears of not having a continuing intimate relationship with her. Fears that I won't stand up for myself. But they're not like the only thing I see in those situations when they come up. I'm able to see actually a choice now. Instead of reacting to, oh, I'm gonna leave you, or I feel so abandoned, or this proposal or this project you worked on, it's horrible. And feeling the fear of, oh, if they reject me, everybody will reject me. Like, those aren't as real. Those aren't as, like, concrete. And I'm able to say, oh, I have the choice of falling into the same old pattern, which is kind of retreating in myself, feeling bad, feeling kind of closed, like I can see it in my body. Like, oh, I don't want to face that fear. Or, oh, I feel the fear coming up, but I also know there's another day. Or I also know it's much deeper than that. It's their projection of who I am on me, or it's them inside that's feeling bad. So this whole new world opens up of like seeing and feeling a lot of different emotions and energies going around me, and realize, what are the ones I own? I can either feel, okay, when I realize that, I can either feel bad about it and reinforce this judgment or pattern, or I can say, wow, isn't it beautiful that life gave me this lesson? And look at the lesson as a lesson and move on. And not get too attached to those things that are not really mine.